Recently, Trump released a statement about the ongoing atrocities in Nigeria, where radical Islamists are responsible for mass killings in the country. So let's talk about it. You know, the word genocide has become one of the most charged terms in recent years, for example, as a result of the conflict in the Middle East. Hardly a day passes without someone accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. Now, whatever your view on the conflict, whether you believe Israel is guilty of genocide or not, what's undeniable is that something very close to genocide has been unfolding elsewhere with little to no coverage from Western media. In another part of the world, entire communities are being wiped out. Yet the same voices that speak so passionately about injustice seem almost silent about this one. I'm talking about mass killings of Christians in Nigeria, which has actually spanned more than a decade, where Islamists regularly attack Christian villages, leaving dozens dead. So I will talk about this in detail, and then I will talk about what this might mean for us in the Western world. The reality of many Christians in northern and north-central Nigeria has been dire, many of whom have become internally displaced. Some can no longer go to their farms because of fear of being killed. Those that remain live in constant fear and apprehension, not knowing when their village will be next. Now, for context, Islamist extremism in Nigeria goes all the way back to 2002 with the rise of an Islamic sect popularly known as Boko Haram, which literally translates as Western education is a sin or forbidden. Before the group turned to violence, their leader, Muhammad Yusuf, he was arrested and killed by the Nigerian police in 2009. Following that, his successor, Abubakar, began a campaign of terror against the Nigerian state. Although the initial attacks were against government infrastructure, it quickly turned into an Islamization campaign against Christians in northern Nigeria. This has left Christians vulnerable to attacks as the authorities find it difficult to respond on time to the attacks. Boko Haram's goal was a complete Islamization of northern Nigeria without question, and the presence of Christians was unacceptable. In 2014, Boko Haram carried out its most notable acts of terror till date, where they abducted more than 200 schoolgirls in a boarding school in Chibok, which is in northern Nigeria. Many of these girls were young Christian girls. Once abducted, they were forcefully converted to Islam, married off to jihadist fighters, while others were sold into slavery. Till this day, many of those girls have not been brought back, and many more girls have been taken since. In February 2018, over 100 schoolgirls were kidnapped by Islamists from a government girls' college in northeastern Nigeria. Again, the girls were forcefully converted to Islam, returned to their parents with a stern warning never to send them back to school. But there was one girl who was not released. She was 14 years old at the time of her taking. Her name is Leah Sharibu. She completely refused to abandon her Christian faith and be converted to Islam, and as a result of that, while the other schoolgirls were released, she remains in captivity with her Islamist abductors. There are reports that she may have given birth to at least one child resulting from her rape by her abductors. Now, one might think that this sort of attack on Christians is limited to the actions of extremists, but you would be wrong. Christians are sometimes killed by ordinary Muslims, often their neighbors or people close to them. On May 12, 2022, a Christian student named Deborah Samuel Yakubu, she was killed by a mob of Muslim students in Nigeria. She was a second-year economics student, and she was accused of blasphemy against the Islamic prophet Muhammad. The incident began in a class WhatsApp group where she was falsely accused of making blasphemous comments and insulting their prophet. Basically, an angry mob overpowered school security who had placed Deborah in a security post for her protection. The mob pulled her out, beat her, stoned her to death, and then burned her body. Shockingly, in response to the killing, violent protests occurred, but it wasn't over the killing itself. It was the Muslims who were protesting over the arrest of the murderers and demanding their release. What disturbs me most was how everyday regular Muslims could so blatantly take another human life on suspicion. Whether it was proven is besides the point, but just even a suspicion of an alleged insult to their prophet, and to have the nerve to protest over the arrest of the murderers. These were apparently not militants or terrorists. These were her classmates. Incidents like this make it harder and harder to keep defending the not all Muslims argument. Despite all of these assaults, the Christian community in northern Nigeria remains strong and steadfast in their faith, taking each day at a time and trying to make the most of a horrendous situation. In 2022, in June, a month after Deborah was murdered, Islamists carried out one of the deadliest attacks yet on churches and Christians in the west of Nigeria. While Christians were in service on a Sunday, the Islamists launched an attack on this church, killing at least 50 people. These groups have in essence set up a caliphate within Nigeria, and despite efforts of the Nigerian military, they have not been fully dislodged from the territory that they hold. Those who live under their reign of terror must pay taxes, protection money, and abide by Islamic teachings. These Islamists, they want more and more, constantly, despite the fact that 12 of Nigeria's states are currently implementing Sharia law to varying degrees. In some matters, Sharia takes precedence over secular law, which exists side by side. Muslims themselves in these areas have been victims of extremism under these regimes. Mosques also have been bombed, imams have been killed, not to speak of the extreme moral codes that Muslims are forced to live under, which, by the way, is riddled with hypocrisy and classism, because the ruling Muslim elite often get away with infractions that would get the ordinary Muslim in trouble. What does this mean for us here in the UK? It's easy to see something like this and think it's far away, something happening in a country that has nothing to do with us. But that would be a mistake. What's happening in Nigeria reveals what can grow when truth is suppressed in the face of religious ideologies that are not challenged. This is what can eventually happen when fear of causing offense outweighs the duty to speak plainly. This is also what happens when a culture loses the confidence to defend its own values. Here in the UK, we already see how conversations around Islam are treated as off limits. People are so afraid of being called Islamophobic. The same journalists and activists who loudly condemn Western nations for supposed moral failures can't seem to find their voices when Christians in Africa are butchered for their faith. That double standard should trouble anyone who claims to care about justice. So yes, Nigeria feels distant, but the principles at stake are not. The right to worship without fear, the ability to speak the truth about ideologies, these are things that we in Britain sometimes take for granted. But if we don't learn from what's happening elsewhere, we risk discovering too late that they can be lost here too. It's just a matter of time. And as Christmas approaches, a time that holds deep meaning for millions and millions of Christians, people should stay alert, stay safe. There are always those who view Christian gatherings as targets. Recent years has shown that such threats cannot be ignored. Calling for awareness is not fear-mongering, it is simply the wise thing to do in times like these. As always, share your thoughts in your comments, let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.